friends. Take a few moments with our prompt for reflection. Write down how you're feeling in this moment and what's empowering your spirit. We'll start in a few minutes.
Ashley, we see your dog. It's really cute.
Well, a little technical difficulty to start the day. Not a big deal.
And while we're settling in, guys, participants, do you know how to turn on original sound for musicians? We are going to need that, or at least we'd like that, for a later portion of tonight's service. It would be in your audio settings.
My links.
While we're waiting for the slides to come back up, for those who are just joining us, our prompt is ensoulment. What is empowering your soul right now? So you can be sitting with that reflection, making yourself any notes while we're waiting for the slides to magically reappear.
Also, while we're waiting, this is another good time to go run and grab a pen and paper for yourself, because we will need that later. So take a minute.
And we're back.
Is the sound okay, or is it still a little funky? It's okay? Okay.
It's okay on this end.
All right. Well, I think this is a good time to get started. I'm going to go ahead and add my spotlight. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the third Sacred Commons gathering. We're so happy to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us on this Thursday afternoon. Oh, gotta get rid of that music. There it goes. We have a really music is we're working out the music. but we're gonna figure it out and it's gonna be great. But at any rate, we're so happy to have you all here for this May edition of the Sacred Commons. So welcome, welcome. As a reminder, we are a radically inclusive, God-optional interfaith community.
I like that. God optional.
God-optional, absolutely. That is one of our core values. So this is kind of the order of service for today. We have a lot of really excellent content. So generally, these are the different sections we have. Sometimes they might be in a different order depending, but these are the things that we have planned every month. We start with our location and time, which we talk about the different religious and cultural and spiritual holidays and various observations throughout the month that we are in. Last month, we left Sweet Little Beltane off our list, and so I am re-adding it since it is still Beltane season, which is, of course, a Gaelic festival that marks the beginning of summer and the peak of spring. I am in the Pacific Northwest. It is very hot today, so it definitely feels very summery in my office right now. May 1st was Vesak, which is a Theravada Buddhist festival that observes the birth, death, and enlightenment of the Buddha. May 14th, the Ascension of Jesus is celebrated. May 21st through the 23rd, the Jewish holiday of Shavuot. May 24th is the Declaration of the Bab in Baha'i. May 24th is also the Pentecost. May 24th through May 29th is the Hajj pilgrimage of Islam. And on May 31st, in a few days, we have a nice full blue moon in Sagittarius. So those are some of the things in our time that we are observing. And now I'm going to hand it over to Leah and Spotlight. So give me one moment. All right.
Hi, everyone. We are here to, in part, hold things together and hold all that is heavy in community and in partnership. So we always create a list from the things that are on our hearts, weighing heavy on our hearts. And we also invite you to share in the chat things that are weighing heavy on your hearts. And always the hope is that in distributing it amongst the group, it makes it a little lighter for each of us, and we're better able to navigate our lives with all that is hard, all that is difficult. So again, I'll invite you to share anything in the chat, and it could be something personal or it could be something more community-wide or global. Whatever is pertinent to you matters to us. And I'll call out some things from our slide, things that we know many of us are holding and our wider community is holding. So California, environmental dangers and disasters, fires, chemicals, outbreaks of Ebola and hantavirus, the industrial implosion in Longview, Washington, which are things shared in the chat. Sorrow for the climate breakdown all around me. The high cost of living, and how much of a struggle it is for so many folks to pay just the basic bills, let alone the extras. Continued wars, continued genocides. deportation and ICE agents in the US, attacks on mosques and attacking our Muslim siblings. Continued oppression. Likely droughts this summer and the fire season that accompanies. And I'll highlight the piece that is just the changes that we can all see, no matter where we are on this earth, changes that indicate this climate breakdown and climate crisis. I'll give it another moment in case anyone else wants to share. But we hold all who are holding all of these things in so much love. Exhaustion is highlighted on this list because it is exhausting. It is exhausting. And even as we seek new pockets of energy to do the work that we're all doing in the world, small and large, neighborly and global, professional and personal, as we seek to do that, we also seek to share this, to hold the grief together, and to name it and bring it out into the open so that we can process better. I especially want to call to our attention and really bring to our hearts in this moment the piece that is the pretense that a lot of people are doing and a lot of people are having to do to act as though everything is normal, whatever normal is, but acting as if it's the normal of 20 years ago, as opposed to holding the reality of all that is right now and all of the very real hardships and challenges that we have. So may we find a way to integrate and be our wholest selves now and always. And to have this moment of being together and naming these things and seeing each other's faces on the screen, and to carry that with us. Put it into your heart pocket as you continue through your day and your week. And know that there are so many people who are feeling the same things, thinking the same things, and working bit by bit to make things a little to a lot better for all of us. We hold all of those affected by everything named and all of those affected by everything that remains unnamed in this moment in love. And now we'll move to Elaine, who's going to share about our values.
Hi, guys. So every month we like to spotlight one of the values that we hold here at the Sacred Commons. And the one that we wanted to lift up this month will be the sacredness of life. And we're defining that as that here in the Sacred Commons, we uphold the inherent dignity, worth, and interconnectedness of all beings and all forms of life, which feels particularly radical to affirm and do in this moment. And I, as well as some of you here, I think are in Chi's Eco Ministry course coming up this weekend. And so this theme really ties in particularly well for me. And just being aware of the interconnectedness of all of us. And so next, we are actually going to shift back to Reverend Leah. I don't know if you know this about her, but she is a beautiful singer and songmaker, and she has agreed to lead us in one of her original songs together today. I'm so excited for this.
I'd say hi again, but perhaps that's redundant. No, just kidding. Hi. So I actually am seeking to do a little bit of an interactive element. And so this is why when some of you were entering, we asked you to adjust your audio to original sound for musicians. So if you haven't already done that, you can click the little caret, the little upside down triangle next to audio. And there on my screen, and I know it's different for everyone, but on my screen it says microphone modes, and I clicked original sound for musicians. It also might be at the top right of your, beyond the pictures, the images, and it says original sound for musicians. You can click that. So hopefully you're able to do that. And then I'm going to call you to unmute if you are comfortable and know that we are. So as much as I just said we're together in the really heavy things, we're together in the playful and light and sacred as well. So go ahead and unmute. Your voice will not be isolated. So I think we can just pretend we're in a big stadium, and we're able to do this where you're like, oh good, there's 1,000 other people. Nobody can hear me right now. So as you probably know, it's tricky to do music together over Zoom because it's not important. We're far away geographically, and the little delays that we have in sound make it so that if you've ever sung Happy Birthday together on video, it's like a cacophony. Sometimes it's a really joyful cacophony, but it's a cacophony. So what we're going to do is that you all are going to sing 2 notes. So you're going to pick one. So I guess I should say each of you will sing 1 note, pick your favorite, and they are part of a chord that sounds good. And then I'm going to sing some things over that. And I miss that feeling of making music live together, including just like these beautiful communities that exist this way, online and in video. And I think we can do it. So what we're going to, okay. Oh, I see a piece of advice. If you don't see original sound it is in the long list in audio settings. You have to turn that on to see it on the screen. So hopefully we're good. Okay, so we're gonna sing 2 notes. The first one is gonna be la 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 la, and then the next one is gonna be la 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 la, and then you're going to sing the word love. If you get nervous and you're like, I forget the one word that she said, you can also just hum, or you can just sing an ah, and that's okay too. So pick which one you like, either love, 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 or love, love, love. And how I just sang it is not how you have to sing it. So you can choose how often you want to say the word. So you can even just go, love, go on forever. Or I guess the only thing I would ask is like, don't go too wild. It shouldn't actually resemble beatboxing right now, because that's not the sound we're going for. But other than that, you can choose. So let's practice and see how just that part goes, where we're just singing love together. All right, so again, the notes are love and love. Love, 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 love. Yes. Good. Okay, keep it going. And now I'm going to layer on top of it. Can everyone hear each other? Yes. Okay. So go ahead and start. And I'm going to keep a very light beat that is my own. But again, you do what feels right for you. Ready? Oh, and I should say at the end. One more instruction. At the end, I'll bring us to a close, and then you'll end your last statement of love. All right. So overcome the stage fright. Here we go. Love, 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 love. We are here in this moment, showing up for love, 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 love. We come here for the blessing of community and of love, love, love. we can hold each other tight. For the only thing is love, love, love. Love, love, love. Love, love, love. Thank you all. Beautiful. Oh, I forgot to see who we're going to next. My apologies. We are heading. Oh, Elaine and I are we throwing things back and forth? No, we're going to Ashley. Ashley for the wisdom sharing. Welcome, Reverend Ashley.
All right. Thank you so much for that. That was so beautiful. That was such an interesting, such a fun experiment in the Zoom space to try that. So very exciting. Well, thank you all for being my captive audience for me to talk about something very near and dear to my heart, which is my dislike. Dislike is too mild of a word, honestly. My campaign against the Gregorian calendar. So my presentation for you today is called The Temporal Anarchist's Guide to Living in Lunar Time. Anybody that's met me in a dark alley knows that I really, really dislike the way that we have organized time these days. So I have devised of it a little bit differently. And so what is temporal anarchy? And I'm sorry, I'm sort of looking at two different screens in case I'm looking in a different direction. But as I define it, temporal anarchy is the practice of living outside as much as is possible of the timekeeping boundaries of a patriarchal, Christocentric solar calendar that seeks to sever our relationship with the divine feminine and the moon. And yes, I do believe it is that deep, and I do believe it is a conspiracy of time that has been put together to sever this relationship and to put us out of rhythm with the natural order of the way that time has been devised for millennia, or has been organized. So that little quote at the top, for those who might not be familiar, is a quote from The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which is my favorite book series. But time is in fact an illusion, lunchtime doubly so. But I do also really love this quote that lunar living is in direct opposition to capitalism and linear time. So I have beef with Pope Gregory the 13th. He was the one who was responsible for creating the Gregorian calendar. It is a solar calendar that was created in 1582 by Pope Gregory the 13th to correct the accumulated temporal errors of the last shitty calendar made by a man with too much power, who was Julius Caesar. And, they've left an indelible mark on the way that we conceive of time in a really unhelpful way, frankly, I believe. But some of the things that the Gregorian calendar sought to do was to fix the spring equinox to the same time, around the same time every year because of Easter. And it also made a more accurate calculation on when to include a leap year. Can I tell you what that calculation is? Nope. It has to do with multiples of something. Again, it is the civil standard calendar, in spite of it being very, very dumb, in my humble opinion. So it's really just not a great system. Why is not a great system? It just doesn't make sense. Okay, if we just start, if we're just looking not even at anything else, just the numbers themselves, right? September. What does September mean? 7. What month is September? 9.
It's so adorable.
October, 8. What number is it? 10. and so on and so forth. I said, don't get me started on July and August, but I'm going to get started because I have you here and I'm already talking about it. July and August was just shoved in there again to honor Julius and Augustus Caesars. And they were given 31 days simply because why would you not give them the most amount of days? They're such important men. Give them the most amount of days. And that's the only reason why those 2 months have 31 days. We need a poem to remember it. And I tell you what, that poem is not even helpful because I can add, 31 days, half January, I can just plug in whatever months to that poem and it's really not helpful. Also, it has the word half in it and you have to know what a score is. Again, just things that are not helpful for us to use, mnemonics that aren't particularly helpful. Having the summer or having the new year start either in the middle of the winter or the middle of the summer in the southern hemisphere does not align astrologically, energetically. It's really just, and I think that's one of the reasons why New Year's resolutions are generally really hard for us because we try to do them in the middle of winter when we're supposed to be resting and we're not supposed to be having all of this energy or doing all of these things. And so we're sort of setting ourselves up to fail even by trying to have our new year kind of start psychologically at that time of the year. Not to bring up, not to be pro-capitalism or anything, because I'm not, but each year has irregular quarters and halves, which causes business metrics to need to be consistently adjusted because they're different every single year. So every accountant in your life is doing a lot of calendar math that they'd probably prefer not to do. Also, the centering the calendar around the birth of Jesus, I believe, is exceedingly Christocentric, given that it is the global standard calendar. And it also kind of messes with how we conceive of time in terms of AD and, before Christ, after. It's all, I think that it was an interesting choice. It makes sense that it came from the Catholic Church, but it's just doesn't make a lot of sense. So there have been other ways that we have conceived of approaching the illusion of time. Many cultures and religions maintain their own calendar systems to mark important holidays and anchor time within their particular cosmological, agricultural, or cultural framework. So some of those calendars are the Islamic calendar, which is a lunar calendar. And, some of the tricky parts about pure lunar calendars is that it means that things drift throughout the year if you're not kind of correcting for them, which is what a lunisolar calendar kind of does, is tries to honor the rhythms and the cycles of the moon and also correct certain things for the seasons. So sometimes you have to do a little bit of yes and. The Islamic calendar is truly lunar, which means that, Ramadan kind of can fall any time of the year, which can certainly be harder in the summer months when people have to fast for a lot longer of the day. The Hebrew calendar is a lunisolar calendar. The Hindu calendar is lunisolar, Chinese lunisolar, and the Buddhist calendar as well. The solar Hijri calendar, which is used in Iran and Afghanistan, is a solar calendar. The Coptic calendar is solar, and the Ethiopian calendar is solar. And our calendar is sort of a evolution of an Egyptian Babylonian calendar that was a solar calendar. One of my favorite attempts to recalendar was created in the early 1900s by a temporal anarchist and businessman by the name of Moses Beath Cotworth. He was a railway accountant who was sick of doing the math on his accounting and said, enough is enough. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going to come up with something different. So what he did was he devised a calendar system that had 13 months. There was an extra month called Sol that was inserted between June and July. There was 28 days per month, 4 days exactly per month, and every date always landed on the same weekday each year. Can you believe that? That's crazy. So George Eastman, who was the CEO of the Eastman Kodak Company, met Moses sometime in the early 1900s and was like, yes, I like your kind of crazy. And he implemented it at the Kodak Eastman Company, and they used it internally from 1928 until 1989 in some form. So it proves that we can do things differently. And all it takes is a little ingenuity and a lot of dislike of the Gregorian calendar. So Moses is a folk hero of mine. And so, getting into kind of my system and how I kind of devised of my own calendar, I'm going to share just a few fun facts that I love to share. Fun fact number one. Some turtles, many turtles, have lunar calendars on their backs. So turtle shells will have an inner segment of 13 central segments and then surrounded by 28 smaller segments. And many indigenous cultures in North America have traditionally used turtle shells as lunar calendars. And I just think, what a cute little trick of evolution. And also that, the Earth decided that was a really important thing for turtles to have, and that evolution has decided that it's still really important that turtles have a lunar calendar on their back, because I think at some point they're like, you'll figure this out. You'll take a look at this turtle and see that this is probably the way we should be doing things. So there's that fact about turtles. There's also a couple facts about the moon. So there are over 300 instances of colexification, which is the same word having two different meanings, for moon and month. So in many languages throughout the world, the word for moon and the word for month are the same exact word. Another fun fact is that the sun and the moon appear the exact same size in our sky due to the sun being 400 times wider than the moon, and also exactly 400 times further away. So in my mind, there's this really natural idea to looking at both of those bodies, right, in our skies and giving them somewhat equal import, right? And that's, I think, why a lot of the lunisolar calendars make a lot more sense. And it's really hard when it is a purely solar calendar for the reasons that we've talked about. So how did I descend into temporal madness? So it really started with Chi. Chi is responsible for this journey of mine, for many journeys that I've been on. But we took a class, and I don't know if it's still offered, but there was a class and it was all about sort of like self-care for spiritual care providers. How are we taking care of ourselves? How are we boundarying ourselves to make sure that we're setting aside time for rest and reflection and metabolization of all of the things that we're carrying? And the teacher had talked about a personal retreat day, which is a practice that she did once a month, where she took time out of her month and she boundaried it, and it wasn't at work and it wasn't at the office. It was a time that went where they would just do whatever they wanted for the day. And it was really about rest and reflection and thinking about the last month and planning for the next month and manifesting and sort of bringing in that energy for that next month. At the same time that I was learning about that, and I was thinking, wow, what a cool thing. Because, I work for myself and I can kind of boundary and organize my time how I want. So I was really thinking like, wow, this would be a really cool thing to do. And at the same time, I had learned about Rosh Hodesh, which is a minor Jewish holiday that marks the beginning of each Hebrew month. And traditionally, Rosh Hodesh was a sort of a holiday for women. And it was a day that women were kind of given the day off of hard labor, and were allowed to sort of take the day to rest. And it was a day for women to come together and reset and come together in these spiritual communities and just honor the sort of the new moon, because each Hebrew month starts on the new moon. So I had been doing this Rosh Hodesh practice for many years, where I was honoring the Hebrew months and I was taking that time out of my day, boundarying it from work. Oftentimes I would, go somewhere for the day, or I would take myself out to a nice brunch or whatever. It was just the day where I just did whatever I wanted to. But I would always do a little bit of reflecting, and it happened in various ways over time, right? I started in a journal and I would do it manually, and I'd have a little template that I'd use, and I would kind of think about these different aspects of my life of like, how did I measure up to, you know, my community or my spirituality, and like really looking at those different parts of my life and reflecting on it, and then thinking, okay, what kind of energy do I want to call into the next month? And I would also really reflect on the themes of the Hebrew month, right? Thinking about what was happening in that month. What are the themes? What are the sort of spiritual lessons, right? And there's so many layers of symbolism and things within those months. So I'd really try to learn about those and as much as possible incorporate it into my Rosh Hodesh reflections and into the next month. And then over time, I started to feel less connected to those months and kind of thought, wouldn't it be crazy if I just decided to make up my own symbols and to look at my own rhythms and the things that I care about and the energies that I care about? And one of the things that I did include in my Rosh Hodesh practice was looking at the astrological transits and the energy of the astrology of that time. So I really wanted to create a calendar that felt like it was really aligned with my symbols and my what was important to me, and sort of enchanting my life in this way by looking at the way that I organize time. So that's how I got into my own system. So at a glance, my system is called the Living Lunar Wheel. But technically, if we're being, you know, it's not a solely lunar calendar because it is anchored to the spring equinox and to the astrological moons. So my year begins on the new moon closest to the spring equinox. Each year contains 13 lunar months of approximately 28 days each, but because it is a lunisolar calendar, a little bit of calculation is necessary. I'm not truly Moses over here with the pure fixed calendar, but you know, it's close enough. So it has 364 days and then one DOOT, which means day out of time, which if you've ever heard of this or if you look it up, it is a really cool concept that was in the sort of Mayan calendar cosmological framework, where the Mayan calendar is both a lunar, solar, and galactic calendar, which is also so cool. So the day out of time was this day that literally did not count in time. It was completely outside of their system. And so it was this day for like really just like reflecting and just spirituality and just all of those things energetically that you want to call into that new galactic year. And traditionally it falls on July 25th, I want to say. There are reasons for that. It has to do with the star Sirius and when Sirius rises with the sun. And so that was sort of the day out of time. But I really love this concept. And so I haven't quite figured out what day out of time I want to do yet. That's kind of a new thing that I'm thinking about, but maybe it'll be July 25th this year just to align myself with that galactic calendar. Each lunar month is anchored by the astrological new moon. So it does fall the start of each of my months starts on the astrological new moon of that month. Each month and moon, new and full, I've given unique names and various associated symbols. So traditionally we name full moons and we have traditional, indigenous names for those moons. We don't tend to name new moons, but I decided I wanted to name all of them because I have free will and I wanted to do it. And I thought it was fun to think about the themes of those months and come up with fun names for them. And then each year is how many years I am, because if we're going to make it based on an arbitrary situation, it might as well be me. And so today in my calendar system is Fulbright, the 13th of Floralis, 40, because I'm 40. And you might be wondering, Fulbright, what's that? Well, I named the days of the week also, because again, why stop at the months and the moons? So I have different names for the days of the week. And the days of the week have been renamed to be more aligned to how they feel energetically to me. So that energy is kind of described through the lunar phases. So Monday is dark day, Tuesday is kindle day, Wednesday is waxen day, Thursday is Fulbright because I conceive of Thursday as being the brightest day of the week. I don't know if it was because I was born on a Thursday or what, but to me, Thursdays are just like the full moon of the week. And it's also that time where it feels like the week sort of shifts to the end, where we start to talk about Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, which in my system is wane day, shadow day, and still day. And even just thinking of the names differently and thinking of those and really thinking about the energetics of that week and cyclical time, it really starts to change your brain in kind of a fun way. And so those are the days of the week that I use. So like I said, each month has a theme, has various associated themes and symbols. And so this is one of my months at a glance. Have been creating these kind of tarot card, oracle cards for each month, just so I can have those symbols be top of mind. So Solara is my summer month that I was born in. Of course, I'm going to pick the one that I was, my birth month. So the element of that is fire. The zodiac is Leo. The planetary ruler is the sun. The new moon is called the radiant heart moon. The full moon is called the crown moon. The flower associated with it, which is a native flower to the Pacific Northwest, and all of my flowers are all native to this area, is the Colombian lily, and the stone is the sunstone. I have a rune for each month. That's sort of an energetic symbol around that. And it is Iwaz. I'm not very good at pronouncing the rune. So if anybody knows how to pronounce that better, but that rune is about strength and transformation and the spine of becoming. And then the themes of this month for me are sacred visibility, joy, boldness, creative fire. And each of my months has a spiritual guide that I've kind of tied to the month. And for Solara, I have James Baldwin, who is one of my heroes, and a Leo. And so that quote of his is a quote that resonates very deeply with me and feels aligned with kind of the themes of the month. And so it's really fun to sort of layer all these different symbols and just think about them throughout the month, or think about how they show up, or how I can meditate on them, or, get strength from these different layers of symbolism. So the other ways that I kind of live in lunar time, and Elaine lovingly encouraged me to include a photo of my bread, because I do incorporate these things wherever I can. It can be really hard for me to always be cognizant of the exact day of my calendar. I haven't quite figured out how to make an app yet, so a lot of it is like very manual of me kind of counting from the new moon and things, but I do my best to kind of be aware of the general themes and the symbols. And places that I can incorporate those into my daily life, or in this case, my weekly bread. I make one single loaf of sourdough every single week. And I'm on my path to perfecting my 70% hydration recipe. If anybody wants it, I'm happy to share. But I made one on the new bloom moon, which was the first of Floralis. So I gave it a little flower. But I also keep a blank calendar notebook where I keep track of each of the months and what Gregorian calendar date corresponds with the new moon and the full moon, so I can kind of stay on track with where we are in the months. I put any particularly important astrological transits in there, upcoming travel and events. And I also keep track of my menstrual cycle, and paying particular attention to ovulation, menstruation, and how that coincides with the new and the full moon. And it might not surprise you to know that ever since I've been living into this calendar system, those things have synced up a lot more than they used to, in a really interesting way, where oftentimes ovulation for me will fall on the new moon and menstruation will fall on the full moon. And it's very interesting to see how just being more aware of the cycles of the moon helps you just be more aligned with them. So this is my charge for you all. Become temporally ungovernable. Stop assuming there's a standard way of approaching time. Observe how your own rhythms are and your symbols and the things that you care about and that are alive in your life. And think about maybe changing the way that you conceive of that time. And then question who benefits from the way current time is structured. It's spoiler alert, the patriarchy and the ruling class and capitalism and all of those individuals benefit from this way that we have structured time. This individual here pictured is my hero Moses, Moses B. Cotswold, which I was joking and saying that you're allowed to look like a villain if you have good ideas. Okay, so I think that like he might look a little crazy, but the man had good ideas, and for that we thank him. So I will leave you with just a little haiku for this closing, which is thank you for your time, even though it is not real. Go look at the moon. So thank you so much for being here, and I will pass it along to
Thank you,
Elaine.
Ashley. That was by my special request. I've heard about Ashley's lunar calendar, and I was like, I need to know more. So that was everything I could have hoped for. Thank you. So yeah, we're going to completely shift gears visually now. Are we ready for paint? Yes. So our embodied practice today, we are borrowing, this is Elizabeth Gilbert. You probably know her from Eat, Pray, Love. And she has recently started her own Substack where she revealed to us, next slide if you would, Ashley, her very own decades-long spiritual practice, where she writes herself daily a letter from the spirit of unconditional love. And it's transformative. In this practice, she has come to experience that there is a magnificent intelligence in the universe that is kind beyond measure and that only seeks to know us and to be known by us. I really encourage you to go check out her Substack. There's a whole community there. She shares not only some of weekly, not her daily ones, but weekly letters that she writes from love, and people share in their own, and it's become this beautiful community. So next, please, Ashley. And she continues that there is an ocean of warm, affectionate, and outrageously unconditional love available to us all, and that it's conveniently available from within. No one is excluded from this ocean of love. It is only a question of learning how to hear it, feel it, and trust it. And the next slide, I recently came across this new practice of hers on an episode of the Telepathy Tapes podcast. I can't recommend it highly enough because they really do a great job of compiling not only Liz Gilbert's personal wisdom from over a decade of this practice, but also at this point, like the thousands of letters that people have submitted. And next slide, please. You really get some incredible takeaways. Like looking at the bulk of this, we come to find out that actually, oh, spoiler, suspense, gotta wait on it. Here we go. So when we look at, oh no,
When I click on that slide, it keeps taking me to this place.
screwy.
I know, it's so funny. Um, Maybe if I click on a different, no.
No.
Dear, I don't know.
Just made it not pink.
Is there a
What if
link
you
that somebody
do?
can delete on their end?
All right. I'm just going to tell you, you won't be able to see it. But we come to find out, one, each one of us has our own unconditional love team. And I say team quite literally. One of the most interesting things is that the voice of love across thousands of people, it really tends to speak in the plural. So we are here. We love you. And your team, man, who knows who it is, but like they're really, really understanding. I think that maybe they've been people themselves at some point because like they just really get it. They're like, yeah, being people is so hard. You're doing great. We got you. Another big takeaway is that no matter who you are, the voice of love it sounds the same for all of us and from all of us. Like that is really touching. That like the tone, the voice, and all of these different letters, love sounds like itself. It's very universal. And at the end of the day, we're all just little sweet bunnies. And we just want to be loved. And we are loved. So, is there any way for us to get at least to the next slide, Ashley? We'll do it. Yeah, and so listening to all of this, it really leaves you with the question, if I knew that I was fully and completely loved all the time, next, like, what would that change for me? Maybe.
These links are embedded, but it keeps wanting to link me out.
Wow.
I know. Because I know you have something else on the side, but every time oh, there you go. Now it did it. Great.
What would that change? Hey.
I don't know.
All right. Can we get to the next slide? Okay. So how do we do this practice? This is a short and sweet kind of thing. Hopefully we can get to the bullet points on this one. Maybe. Oh, thank you, Carrie. Yeah, so she put it in the chat. This is what was on the slide. If you write for longer than about 5 minutes, then it becomes more of like a mental exercise instead of like an imaginative or kind of channeled exercise. Also start with a nickname. As the saying goes, the well-loved child has many nicknames. So, dear little bunny, dear pool noodle, whatever nicknames or endearments feel right for you. And also, if you're new to the practice, if you don't feel like you can hear the voice of love, just imagine it. Think of it purely as a creative writing exercise. What would the voice of unconditional love say to me right now? And so, Ashley, our next slide, I believe, is a prompt. Yeah, this is what you start with. What would you have me know today? And I actually just want to check in now, you guys. I'm seeing that we're at 5 minutes till the hour. And there's like a 3-minute little song that would play while we would do the practice. But we could also just do that practice sometime. It's really sweet. And maybe move on to kind of our reflecting and closing now. Let's do that. All right. So, welcome, guys. This is our time to come together and just share what stood out for you today. In our day of technical challenges and imperfections, thank goodness I know that I am deeply and unconditionally loved all the time, so that I don't have to stress about that. But yeah, feel free to come off mute or put thoughts or comments in the chat.
I
What
think
resonated for you today?
even though you had the technical difficulties, the message was beautiful. Absolutely. Unconditional love, I think, is so important, and realizing that we are all loved. We are all trying to work through the same life. I think that that's such a strong, love is a force. It really is. And unconditional love is beautiful. I think we should all practice it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
In the podcast episode, actually, she mentioned that one of the hardest things is getting men to try the practice. And so, Jonathan, I particularly appreciate you highlighting that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I really appreciate the invitation to pay attention to, focus on our life and how our own rhythms move in time and space, and to sort of take ownership of that for ourselves.
Yeah, I just love that thought of ensoulment and the idea that, everything has a spirit and a soul and a life of its own, even our Canva presentation. And, we do all the things to make it, and it's going to embody the way that it wants to be embodied in this world. And I think the acceptance and the unconditional love of that is, a good practice to have. So thank you all for sticking with us through that.
From Carrie, the sacred empowers my spirit with time out of time, and wondering what would happen if I knew I was deeply loved. So much taken to my day.
Yeah, this our gathering today has felt like it embodied all of the things that have been brought together and in a different way than it has in other sessions, like even just like the timing of things, like things just unfolding whenever the heck they wanted to and going where they wanted to. And yeah, it's felt just particularly impactful.
Thank you. Yeah, who knows?
I'm thinking about how love, the reminder of this, particularly for times where people have lost loved ones or in grief, and the reminder of that person, despite losing their significant one, is still so loved, and to embrace that peace so that that journey might be more whole for them and for our own selves and our loss is beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, to close us today, Reverend Rivka will be tying all of this together with a sacred form of prayer that we call here the Jurgening, which will be instantly recognizable to Chi folks. But it's a way of weaving together all the different nuggets and gems from today's service.
Indeed. Source of love, who we know by many names and no names, but through the ocean of love that we reside with you in. Thank you for reminding us of our inherent dignity, that our interconnectedness with one another and with all creation sometimes sounds like a cacophony, but it is filled with joy and love. That the time that we spend together does not have to be limited by the structures of the patriarchy, but we can enter into a temporal anarchy with one another where we truly embody our own rhythms, where we involve the soul and the spirit in an ensoulment that enlivens and empowers us to enter into a personal retreat, into connection with one another in deep and thoughtful ways. May we become aware that through you, through all that is love, the unconditional team includes each one of us. Each of us can be that loving voice of love for one another. And we thank you that you have brought us to this moment where we can embrace peace, where we can know one another and be compassionate with ourselves when things don't go the way we expect them to, because it is indeed all held by love. We lift this up in the name of all that is love in every tradition and in no tradition. May it be so.
Thank you, Rivka, for a beautiful yearning. All right, as we close today, just a few announcements and housekeeping. The alumni retreat is the 8th through the 12th in Santa Cruz, and so hopefully we'll see a lot of you folks there. It's still open for day commuters if you're not going to be staying at the retreat, so come on down if you want to hang out. We're going to be doing this live at the retreat at the bright time of 7 a.m. on Tuesday, June 9th. So please come. We'll have some fun in-person events or in-person things. And so that should be a really good time. And then we're going to have a second virtual one in June at the normal time, which will be June 25th at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. So we look forward to seeing you all back here at the same time then, and hopefully in person in the retreat in a few weeks. So I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day and a wonderful rest of your week. And thank you so much for being with us here today.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
It's so good to be together.
Woohoo.